So hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about Zomato, not about its IPO only, but what it does for the Indian capital markets and the Indian stock market in particular. We are not going to deep dive into the strength of its balance sheet, what's its longevity of the business, but very precisely and in a very short way, going to talk about what it has done for the Indian capital markets. So let's first quickly look into the Zomato IPO, just for the beginner. So the IPO size was around 9,375 crores. That's quite a huge size in terms of IPO. Its face value is 1. The IPO overall got subscribed 38 times. For an issue size of 9,300 crores, the issue got subscribed 38 times. That's huge. And the IPO price band was between 72 to 76, and it got subscribed at the higher end at 76 rupees. And it listed around 120, 116, 120, around that area. And then it went up, but it settled around those prices. So it gave a very, very healthy return on its day of listing, which was 23rd of July 2021, a Friday. Why I mention Friday is that technically you will see over the longer period chart, Friday is usually a day when markets could be a little soft, could be a little on the modest side of it. There were 186 anchor investors, and most of the insurance companies, the mutual fund had chipped in during as anchor investors to the Zomato IPO. So it has listed very well with a return of 50% on day one of its listing. Now, let's move on from that. So what it does for the Indian equity markets. So Zomato made a lot of hype. The reason is that it's talked about as the first new age companies to get listed. I particularly don't like this term called new age companies, but for lack of better terms, let's stick to it because that's how the market is terming it. It's an aggregator. It basically aggregates connections. So it basically aggregates whole bunch of restaurants, and it gives an option to a willing customer using its app to order the food. That's what Zomato does. So it's basically a restaurant slash food F&B outlet aggregator. Now, why it became so much of a talking point, and it's still, and I think probably it's going to remain a talking point. The first and the foremost thing is that it comes from two aspects of it. One, people talk about the strength of the balance sheet, the longevity of the business. It's a loss-making company. It has never made any kind of a profit. Its bottom line is negative, equal to its top line. So whatever its top line, it has a negative bottom line to the same figure. That's one side of it. And then people say that for such kind of company, you get this kind of a crazy subscription level of 38 times. But it has a larger message, and the larger message is very, very positive. If this phenomenon holds on for next 3 or 4 or 5 IPOs, which is going to hit the Indian capital markets, the new age companies, something like a Paytm or a Policy Bazaar, or others who are thinking of getting into an IPO. An IPO size anywhere between $500 million to $1.5 to $2 billion, because this was a large issue, 9,000 crores, 9,300 crores. It's going to have a very, very positive, it's going to add a very positive vibe across the global investment community, because it's going to give a lot of confidence to the private capital market, like the private equities, the individual investors, some of the individual funds, a lot of sovereign funds who are taking exposure towards early stage companies, or companies who are at inception, companies who are at a growth stage, but at a smaller size, and it's requiring capital so that it can grow at a particular level and a size and keep up that run rate. This is going to give a lot of confidence to those investors who would think that India's capital market is mature enough to give an exit to those investors. So that's a great positive out of the Zomato IPO. that if this phenomenon continues for next 5 or 6 IPOs, and with that kind of a listing gain, with that level of oversubscription, it's going to have a very, very long-term positive effect on the Indian capital market, especially in terms of private capital. There is a lot of liquidity in the private capital market globally, both in the European, in the North American markets, and in the Asian markets. Asia developed, Asia emerging has a lot of private capital. And anywhere they see globally that they can get a good exit, they can generate substantial alpha, they are going to take strong interest towards it. And India has certainly generated that initial interest, because a lot of private capital has come into India in the last 10 to 12 years. Those capital would look for an exit, and if they are getting a good exit, what happens is that you build an entire ecosystem of goodness bringing in goodness, positivity bringing in positivity. So if existing private capital who have got into the Indian market is getting a good exit, they are going to reinvest, they are going to look at new opportunities, and at the same point of time, it's going to create a lot of positive headlines and news and analysis around the Indian capital market, about the maturity of the Indian capital market and the Indian investors, that is going to bring in other global investors who have been looking at the Indian market but on the sidelines, or have only taken a 2% or a 5% or a 10% exposure of their total portfolio, would want to get in more but are just waiting on the sidelines. So very, very positive effect. If this continues, India is going to see a lot of private capital coming in, going to help the Indian entrepreneurs in a big way. They would get a lot of capital. At the same point of time, they would get a lot of global expertise, because many of these funds have specialists sitting on their board who have been in a particular industry for last 15, 20 or 25 years. Some could be a tech specialist, some could be a media specialist, some could be a healthcare specialist. And all those specialists sitting in the management of those funds or firms can bring in their expertise, so they can act as a catalyst for the growth of those new age companies in India. Again, I use the word new age companies, but let's stick to that for the moment. So great positivity. Let's see what happens. Of course, people will say that what happens to Zomato in the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. Let's hope that it keeps growing, because it's a great employment generator. You as an aggregator, I mean, it has this very positive ecosystem of employment generation. During difficult times, people could use the app to order, so it keeps the restaurant going rather than absolutely closing down or having zero sales. It gives an added channel of revenue generation, and then the entire ecosystem of the delivery guys. That's a great positive. Great to see that Zomato has got a wonderful listing. Hope this continues. Hope the Indian capital market keeps maturing as it has kept maturing for the last 20-25 years. And it's going to put in a lot of good press around private capital who has been looking at India for quite some time. People have been getting in. They could get in a lot more actively. They could get in a lot more aggressively. So let's hope for the best. Thank you very much.